Good morning, I'm Captain Gerard Urbanozo. I'm out here today for Lake Michigan Angler. We're going to do a small segment regarding small boat trolling on Lake Michigan. What is considered small boat? Well, for me, probably anything 24 foot or smaller or 21 foot or smaller that people most commonly take out here to Lake Michigan. Today we'll be fishing out of Nitro ZV21. It's a little bit on the larger side for a small boat, but I've also fished on my old boat, which was an 18-foot Lund, and they fish similarly. You know, these boats are a lot more compact, which allows us to travel and fish different areas of the lake. If there's a hot bite somewhere, we can go there and chase it. So I got this boat rigged with a Magnum downrigger and with two rod holders. One I use for a dipsy. I'll show you this guy here. And this one is used for the downrigger rod. I got my release, and later on we're going to attach a downrigger ball here, and obviously this will swivel back down. And here we have a Magnum Metals rod tree holder, which is fully adjustable on the angles. I can also run and stack a second dipsy. I can set it at 3.5. This will be my braid dipsy, which I'm going to run on the outside of my wire dipsy if I choose to stack them. So one of the important things on a small boat is to keep everything organized. Obviously we don't have the same storage as a big boat. When I put my rods away the day before, one thing I really like to do is I like to twist the line around the rod. That way the rods don't tangle up with each other. So the only thing you got to do is take the line and then wrap it around the guide. I'll unwrap this. So here's the line to the rod tip. All I do is wrap it around, and that keeps it from tangling with each other. So when I grab a rod and they're next to each other, they're never gonna tangle. So you want to be as efficient as possible when you're out there so you can set lines right away in the morning. If I'm planning to get out, I already have my spoons that I'm selected for the day already put on. So when I get out setting lines, I don't have to go look for a spoon to put on the rod. I've already decided the night before what spoons I'm going to use. Obviously, if there's a hot spoon and somebody tells me at the launch, you know, I can still change it. You got to remain flexible when you're out here. Downriggers, really important for a small boat. I like to use a Scotty release with a little bit longer lead. This allows you to detect the light bites or smaller fish. When the fish hits, this will actually go back up and down, so you can tell from your rod tip if you're getting a bite. Another good thing with this is you can grab it with your hands. Unlike the blacks where you have to twist the line and put it into the metal clip, this you can just grab it, put your line, and put it even with this black line, and it should be good to go. It's a really nice, really smooth release, and it's easy on your hands when you're grabbing it. All right, so here we have a wire rod. This is a 700 Dakota LC line counter, and I have a torpedo wire on here. It's got roller guides, and I've replaced the tip on this one so it swivels. One main key for this rig is to store it and keep it tight. So as you can see on the tip, I have a little bumper. It's a soft bead, so I can keep it tight on here all the time, so it doesn't coil up on me. So that means we have to take off our dipsy divers and store it separately. And one of the best ways I've found to keep it is to roll my leader on a foam board like this. So I got two of my dipsies right here. So when I'm ready to go, I just take it off, uncoil it, connect my dipsy, and I'm ready to go. It's another way of keeping everything nice and accessible, and you don't have to mess with leaders tangling up in the morning when you're setting up. All right, so we're here at North Point boat launch, and early in the morning, especially around 5 a.m., there's quite a few boats that launch out here, and it can get quite hectic. One of the best ways to avoid a stressful morning is to get your boats prepped either in the parking lot or down the street where it's lighted. Get your rods untangled, put your rod holders on the boat, and get everything set before you head over to the boat launch. And when you get to the boat launch, especially in the morning in the dark, one of the best things to do is turn your headlights off when you're backing in. That way you don't blind the other guy next to you who's also trying to back in his boat. You don't want to prep your boat right at the boat launch because other guys are trying to come in and put their boat in the water. So, you know, just to make things a little bit more smoother. I mean, I know everyone wants to get out there at the crack of dawn, and if we all do our part, I think it will make life a lot easier out here, and we'll get on to fish a lot sooner. All right, so when we come out here, usually early in the morning, usually a 4:30 a.m. start or 5 o'clock, when we head out, we look for bait. We try to see what the water temp is, and that kind of gives us an idea on where to start. But generally for us here, we have a series of hills where it goes out from 40 to 50, back up and down, and eventually it drops off around 50, 60 feet, and it goes into the basin of Lake Michigan, where it gets deeper from there on. A lot of the bait will usually congregate. If you have any offshore structures in your area, I would focus on those, you know, the 40 to 90 foot range. That's where usually you'll find kinks early on in the morning. So we'll work that from about 5 o'clock to about 7 o'clock, and usually fish will slow down. But on overcast days, we can stay there almost all morning. You know, we don't have to go deep. But when fishing slows down, we generally point east, and for us on this side of Lake Michigan, that means heading east is deeper water. So the kinks and other silverfish usually will remain active in deeper water versus the shallower water. And of course, there's always going to be an exception to that rule. You know, cloudy days, sometimes they'll stay shallower and more active. Versus a bright sunny day like today, we bumped out to about 120 feet, and we'll work our way out into deeper water until we contact fish. The good thing, you know, out here is sometimes we can network with people, you know, talk to charter captains, fellow fishermen at the dock, to try to see, you know, the last point they made a contact with fish. And today we were told, you know, there's some fish out in 220 to 240. But we're not going to run that deep today, so we'll start out here in the 120s to 150. We'll try to see if there's any kinks that are still active late morning. All right, so let's set some lines out. The first thing you want to do is make sure your speed is a little bit faster than what you want to troll, because as you put more lines in the water, you create more drag and the boat's going to slow down. So it's okay to set lines at, let's say, with a target speed of 2.2. And if you're setting your lines at about 2.7 or more, that's fine, because the downrigger balls, all the other rods, all the other lines and the dipsies will actually create drag in the water and slow you down. Plus, if you're going a little bit fast, you can actually set your lead cores, your coppers a little bit faster too, so they come off the reel faster, and you'll still catch fish. So generally faster on setup is fine. So we got the first rod here for the downrigger. Typically with a spoon, I like to set it at least 50 feet back. I'm going to kick up the speed just a little bit. And then I engage the clicker on so that I don't get any backlash. And with a Scotty release, you don't have to do the line twist. You just put it right in, just like that. You know, you don't have to twist the line. All right, guys, we're gonna set up the planer boards here now. So we're gonna run an 8 color on the outside, and then a 10 color, and then a 200 on the inside. So we got the planer boards all laid out. We got the spoons picked out for our spread. And the first thing we're going to do is send out the 8 color, because that's going to be on the outside board. And the reason we're going to do it that way is we're going to have the 8 color. That's going to be our high line, which is going to run, closest to the surface. It's going to get deeper with a 10 color, and then the 200 copper is going to sink a lot faster. So it's going to clear the other rods when we're bringing in a fish. We got our rods, all organized properly. So we got the 8 color handy here. Just going to let it out really fast. Once I get all the lead out, I'm going to turn the clicker on, put it on the board, and send it out while it's on the clicker. That allows me to get another rod and send it out right away while this is still going out. That way we're getting our lines as fast as possible and get them fishing right away. All right, we're gonna send out the wire diver next. Now that we have 3 planer boards out, we got the flasher fly, we got the weight set towards the boat, so it's gonna tilt away from the boat. So I got it in a number 2 setting. Put the clicker on. And the good thing with the wire is that it's going to dive almost in a 2 to 1. So if you let it out 100 feet, it should reach about 50 feet down. Keeping my finger in the spool as I'm letting it out. That way it's got a little bit of tension to it, and it creates a little bit of pressure, so it's also diving down and off to the side so it doesn't tangle up with my downrigger. Yeah, don't just send it down, because if you send it down fast, you'll either get a backsplash or it's going to dive straight down into your downrigger. And the wire is not something that you want to tangle, because once you get tangled, you're most likely going to get a kink. So controlled, let it out slowly. You can also set the tension adjuster if you wanted to slide the reel just a little bit tighter. With a wire dipsy, I got the drag set just tight enough so you can barely pull on it, or once in a while the wave will actually make it click out. I don't have it super tight. The line is stainless steel, so there's no give to it, so that when a fish hits it, there's no stretch, unlike a mono. So you want to keep the drag properly set at all times. If you fight a fish, when you reset it, make sure you check the drag. So let's talk about boat control and speed. One of the most important things for trolling out here is to maintain the proper speed. A lot of times when you don't have the fish hawk or depth grader, you kind of have to rely on your surface speed. So for me, I always keep it between 2.2 and 2.5. Sometimes I have to go a lot faster. And one way for me to determine if I need to go faster is I take a look at my dipsy rod or my downrigger. If my dipsy rod doesn't have the proper bend to it, I'll speed the boat up, so that way I can get the proper bend, so I know I'm putting enough pressure on the dipsy itself to give it the proper speed. If I'm trolling with a current, the dipsy rod is not going to bend as much. If I'm trolling against the current, the dipsy is going to bend a whole lot more. So there's a lot more pressure being put by the current and the boat moving forward. So like right now, if you take a look at the dipsy, it's got that nice parabolic bend to it. It's not working. It's not being pulled really hard where it's pegged all the way down. I kind of want it to go forward, and it surges back up, forward and surges back up. That way I know it's working properly. Every rod is going to be different, so you're going to have to get a feel for your rod and take note when you're catching fish on how your dipsy is bent. So to control the speed properly, I work with both my front trolling motor and my kicker motor. I try to keep my trolling motor at about 4, and my kicker motor does most of the work. So the main purpose of my trolling motor is to keep me pointed in the direction that I want it to. Now with current, let's say there's a north wind blowing my boat south a little bit, I will turn the kicker motor just to compensate for that, so my boat is not drifting sideways as much. And then my trolling motor will be pointed north. So I could turn my kicker motor to compensate for the wind from a north wind, push my boat this way, along with my trolling motor up in the front. So they both work hand in hand to keep my boat moving in a straight direction, so I'm not listing as much sideways. It's really important then to look at your downrigger, your dipsies, to make sure that they're going backwards and they're not sliding off to the side. If it's sliding off to the side, it means you're just drifting with the wind or with the current, and usually you're not going to catch as many fish that way, because your lure is moving to the side, not straight to the back. You're not trolling efficiently. And for the guys who don't have any ways of using a front trolling motor, you can use the drift sock to slow your boat down or to keep the side drift under control. Drift sock's really good for that. Plus it also helps on the wavy days to keep your boat from surging. But usually, you know, guys will use one or two, or even a bucket. A 5-gallon bucket will work, but a drift sock will work to slow you down and give you a better control of your boat. One of the ways to make your small boat a lot more efficient is by organizing your rods so that when you get a fish to hit, nothing's going to tangle. So we have in the back our downriggers, and then followed by a dipsy, and then our boards. So if my downrigger gets hit, it's free and clear. If the dipsy gets hit, I just lift it up and right over the downrigger rod. So you can fight that fish without tangling into the downrigger. You just have to be careful with your dipsy rod, because sometimes when it releases, it's going to get into your copper or your 10 color on the inside. So when that happens, you just turn the boat away from it to keep the fish into the center line of the boat. One of the most important things to consider before heading out here in a small boat is weather. We often have to rely on forecasts or apps to predict what kind of weather we're going to get or current conditions. There's Great Lakes buoys out here that you can pull real-time data. There's one in front of Winthrop Harbor, and also SailFlow is a good app, and even just the regular weather.com. You know, you can also look at that for a forecast or current conditions. NOAA can be a little bit conservative, which is not bad, but definitely check the weather before you go out. West winds are great, but if it gets a little bit too strong, just remember you still have to go back in against that west wind. Sometimes east wind is not too bad to go back with the waves on the way back to the harbor. Any type of weather changes, just make sure that you're prepared to pull lines and head back in, and always, you know, have everything handy: safety gear, flares, VHF radio, and always tell somebody where you're gonna fish and roughly what time you're gonna be back on the dock, so people can expect you to be back safely. Well guys, thank you for joining me today. Hopefully you found this informative. If you want to learn more about Lake Michigan fishing, you can contact me. My phone number is 847-602-1632, and I can either hop on your boat and show you how it's done, or you can hop in my boat and I can take you out for a full day. Or if you need salmon gear, please check out Lake Michigan Angler or at lakemichiganangler.com. And if you want to watch more informative videos, Lake Michigan Angler also has a YouTube channel where you can watch videos just like this to help you catch more fish.